What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today, guys, we have a ton of stuff to talk about in the sports world. We're going to get a chance to talk about a sport that obviously is my favorite sport, but is one that we haven't talked about in quite some time, unfortunately, and that's kind of the sport's fault itself. Obviously, I am talking about Major League Baseball, and with talking Major League Baseball on the show, I figured I bring back on someone who knows his way around the game. And, you know, you've seen him many times on this show before, and I am so glad to welcome him back on. So from TikTok, you know him so many times in so many other places. He's also now on the Walk Off podcast as a host there. So he's making moves all over the place. So without any further ado, please welcome back to the show, Mr. Joel LaFlamme, A.K.A. Hey Commie. Joel, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you?
You know what? I'm hanging in there. Obviously, you know, I think the last time we met, I actually just looked it up. The last time I had you on the show was 65 days ago. That was it. So when we ended up doing that, I figured, all right, but by the next time we meet, and hopefully, you know, but closer to spring training time, we'd have some answers as to what was going on with Major League Baseball, or at least we'd have a better idea of where the situation is. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think either of those things have happened since we've last had you on. This thing has been literally the definition of a stalemate the entire time. And man, like, what are just some of your initial thoughts on just how this entire situation has played out?
Yeah, I'm disgusted because it's just like the business. I put a lot of blame on the owners. You know,
Yeah.
I put a lot of blame on the owners because you had that one span of time, was it 43 days,
Yeah.
where they had a chance to give a counter proposal, and then they're like, we don't have one. We want to go to an arbitrator.
Yeah.
And you're like, that was 43 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was 43 days where you could have sat down and moved something forward, like some aspect of, because you're misaligned on 10 different issues. So maybe you could have knocked 3 out over that period of time. No, you just let that time go, which really, in my mind, like when I think about it, I feel like compared to 1994, social media is so strong now. Like,
oh my God,
somebody can go out and say something on social media, and that is heard by thousands of people, right?
Well, I mean, Joel, you're the definition of it. You've had videos that have gotten close to, like, I think 4 million views at one point was like one of your highest, like, recorded videos. Like,
so use me as an example. I'm nobody, and then all of a sudden I'm somebody. Right?
No, exactly. No, but I will use you as an example because that's the type of impact that you can have. You can have someone just go on an app, and, you know, one day if you say something that enough people will agree with, that's going to get promoted enough, and people will take notice to that. And I think for baseball, they're still kind of operating in that 1994 mindset of, oh, we're just so high up on our high horse that, you know, it really doesn't matter what happens.
Yeah, and what I think, like, when you look at the 94 strike, it was about a 320 day lockout or something. It was
bad.
really long.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have now with this situation is, I think what the owners want to do is they want to subject the players to a few weeks of, you know, if they go, say, to April 15th with no games, if they postpone games, they postpone 2 weeks of games, 3 weeks of games, and then they make the players deal with the fallout from social media.
Yeah,
because the owners don't care.
Yeah, they're in their, like, late 70s. They're not on social media, and for them, like, their self-esteem is, they don't care about that.
They don't care at all about anything you make about them. It gets 200,000 views. You're a terrible owner. They don't care. They go jump in their Scrooge McDuck money vault, and they swim the money, and they don't care. It doesn't mean anything to them. But the players, while they're still, like, millionaires for the most part, a big chunk of the league are younger players who don't have that big, huge contract yet, who are maybe making league minimum still, or a lot closer to league minimum than they are to making 25 million a season. And that fallout, that feedback from the fans still affects them.
Yeah.
You know, sitting there and seeing, say you have a TikTok page and you lose 10,000 followers because they're like, why aren't you playing baseball? I hate you now, right? And you start to see that fallout from it. And I feel like the owners want to subject the players to that and see if they will concede and if they will, bend the knee on some of these issues because, the owners are so much better prepared at dealing with that because they really don't care.
Yeah, I mean, they have the funds to do it. And obviously, a lot of these players, I mean, you look at Max Scherzer, who's going to get $43 million this year. If everything cashes out and he was to make his full salary, the man's going to make $43 million. Like, listen, we're not like, he's not standing in lines at the supermarket, trying to get in with food stamps. Like, this guy is making real money. So there's nothing that you can't actually there is kind of a give and take with that. It's millionaires against billionaires. So there is that aspect to it. And I don't know, when I look at the MLB lockout, it's unfortunately, I'm surprised, but I'm also not. And I think I'm more surprised because of all the insiders like Jeff Passan over at ESPN. I think he's a great insider, but I remember when he went on the Pat McAfee show and he was asking him and was saying, are games going to get canceled very early on? And Jeff ended up saying, at this point, he thought there's no shot that games are really going to get canceled at this point. I think he said pretty much anything can happen, but in his mind, he thought this was going to be like a 1 month shutdown. And then, people were going to sort out their sides and everything was going to get back to normal. And I think the reason he thought that is that there wasn't really any true fundamental changes to the game that was going to be happening during this lockout. It was more about numbers. And they thought that the owners and players could just come to a number and figure it out. But at the end of the day, again, money talks. These guys, especially baseball players, I know professional athletes are always going to be, very, I hate to say stingy, but, they're going to be very protective of their funds. And if anything comes in their way of that, they're going to respond very negatively. From what I know in baseball, that is just amplified to like the nth degree from what I've heard from, news sources and different people like that. So when it comes to these guys, I'm just disgusted with the way this whole thing has gone. And it just flies in the face of the entire purpose of doing this lockout anyways. I know that, you want to avoid players going on strike because that's what happened during the 94 season. They played without a CBA. And then the player said, you know what, we're sick of this. We're not going to finish this season. So there obviously was a risk to doing it. But I was thinking back to when this whole thing started, and I ended up reading Rob Manfred's letter to the fans after this happened, and it ended up the last segment of it just kind of goes like this, and it's very ironic now hearing it now, and it says, to be clear, this hard but important step does not necessarily mean games will be canceled. In fact, we are taking the step now because it accelerates the urgency for an agreement with as much runaway as possible to avoid doing damage to the 2022 season. Delaying this process further would only put spring training at opening day and the rest of the season at risk. And we cannot allow an expired agreement again and to cause an in-season strike and missed World Series like we experienced in 1994. We all owe you, our fans, better than that. And I'm like, it seems so hollow now because it's like, oh, this is going to accelerate the urgency. But then again, the main reason we are talking about this is because Jesse Rogers of ESPN comes out and basically says that a spokesperson came out and claims that if they don't have a new CBA agreement by the 28th and nothing comes in, we are going to miss games. And spring training obviously has already been delayed, but if nothing has happened, if no deal is in, I think it's by Monday essentially, no deal is in, we're missing games this season. And they've already said they're not going to be made up. And they said a deadline is a deadline and there's going to be consequences because of that. And I don't know, coming off of the 2020 season, we lost all those games there. And there was a whole situation then when I think baseball could have played 90 games that season. There's a chance they could have played 90 to 100 games. That it wasn't COVID that kept it out that long. Baseball could have played in that bubble. It wouldn't have taken them till July. The reason we didn't get as many games as we did is because of the players and the owners not being able to come to an agreement.
100%. Yeah. And I really feel like there's more at stake. There's more separation now than there was in 94.
Yeah.
I feel like if you look at what players were making on average mid 2000s, I don't think that the needle has changed too much in the last 15 years. And in the last 15 years, you've seen teams go from the Yankees were $1.8 billion franchise. Now they're what, a $6 billion franchise.
It's insane. Yeah.
Right. The Yankees from about 1975 to now went from an organization that cost $10 million for Steinbrenner to acquire to being worth 10 billion.
Yeah.
Right. It's insane how much value the teams have gotten, especially with like legalized gambling and everything like that.
Oh yeah. That's taken it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. And the fact that the players like the 6 years, don't get me wrong, like being tied to a team for that long and waiting so long for free agency, especially when you are a sport where you notoriously make the league later than other sports.
Yeah.
A 24-year-old rookies, 25-year-old rookies, 26-year-old rookies. Yeah. And then you put 6 years on that, and you're a 33-year-old free agent, and you don't throw the ball 101 anymore. Now you throw it 97, and your bat speed is lost a bit at 33, and you're not as fast as you were.
Yeah, and your back's starting to go, and you're starting to break down physically.
And you're like, oh well, why sign that guy long term when there's risks there in his age? I can just get him out of here. So who cares about the fans? We'll just go grab somebody new, and we'll constantly recycle, and we'll get rid of players 3 years into that. Yeah. Because we know that they're worth so much at that point, and we can constantly keep like retooling, and that doesn't build. You can win all the games that you want in Oakland, but people don't show up too much in the regular season.
Yeah.
Despite that, you're like, hey, this team is gonna win, but whatever jersey I get, that guy might not be in the team.
It'll be irrelevant in 2 weeks. Exactly. Like there's that aspect to it too, and I like how you said that the league is more divided now than it was in '94. It absolutely is. And the other thing that just has me on edge is, and obviously hindsight is 2020, and we're able to see how baseball was able to recover. Obviously, it was because of the steroid era and some of the foul play that was going on there. But there was an out, and was it a clean out? No, but there was a way that they were able to get out of it. When we come out of this, obviously a lot of fans have been driven away, both from the COVID season and from this lockout too. I think at least casual fans, the diehards will still be there, but I do have to wonder when they do come out of this, what is the solution that they have in place to say, all right, hey, we know we kind of drove you guys away, but here's the product that we're going to put on the field that's gonna really bring it back. And I don't know what that product is. Strikeouts are at an all-time high. I mean, like it's just not as entertaining as it once was. So I don't know what the real solution is going to be.
To me, like optimistically, what I see being the solution is that new crop of talent that's coming up. That group there, Tatis and Guerrero and Soto.
No, absolutely. Those guys are going to be very integral to the game, and I think. I don't know if you were going to get on this point with them, but them showing their personality and having baseball become less rigid and have it become more of a dynamic and fun atmosphere. That's what baseball has been missing for so many years. And I know people have always like hammered home, oh, the unwritten rules. A couple of those have to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing that I was thinking of was so you had the home run chase, which kind of brought baseball back late 90s, right after the strike. If you expand the playoffs, which people are talking about 16 teams, and it's being like hockey, and you got a team that's below average making that. But if you do that, if you expand the playoffs, I think expanding the playoffs are going to get so many more people involved, because making the postseason is such a big deal in sports.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a cutoff between just watching one postseason game. It feels like you've accomplished something in your season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can see them dropping the schedule length from 162 to 156.
Mm-hmm.
Try to build in a few more days off during the course of the regular season. And then if you do that, and you slightly tweak the baseballs, similar to the way they were in 2019, then I believe that guys like Guerrero and Soto and Tatis might legitimately have a chance at hitting 62 home runs.
Yeah.
Then that becoming a home run chase that is, we're not chasing 74.
Mm-hmm.
We're chasing 62 and 156.
Yeah.
And Guerrero hit 48 at 22 years old.
Yeah.
Without those 2019 balls, with 11 weeks of foreign substance. So it's just like, and then Tatis hit 42, 43 in 130 games.
Yes, I think so.
Right. So
yeah, because Tatis missed a good chunk of time too.
Yeah, it missed a good chunk of time with his shoulder is popping out of the socket there. But
yeah,
those guys, Soto with the right environment, like those guys can go after. I don't know about Soto because Soto's way more patient. I don't know if Soto's going to be a guy who hits 55 home runs in any given season.
I mean, if you mess around with the baseballs, it could be the type of thing where similar to the I think it was the 98 home run race where you had Sammy Sosa and McGuire going at it. You could almost have Juan Soto essentially be in that Ken Griffey Jr. role, because that going back in the going back to there, it like that home run race originally was like a three-headed monster, and people thought, Griffey's gonna be the guy in this
McGuire.
race.
Yeah, until June and Sosa's 20 homer.
Because I went back and I watched that Long Gone Summer 30 for 30, and they were talking about it, and they thought, oh, it's going to be Griffey and McGuire going at it. And then I think Griffey still finished with 56, which I mean, that's nothing to scoff at.
56 home run years.
Yeah.
Clean.
Exactly. That's nothing to scoff at. That's incredible. But I mean, when you compare it to McGuire hitting 70, and then obviously Bonds a couple years later hitting 73, like it's absolutely mind blowing. But then, so I think that's where Soto could find himself. He could be like that third guy, but could be, in it at the beginning. I think that's how you could see Soto play out. I don't know exactly what the other two would be. I think it would probably be Vlad, and then I don't know if Tatis will eventually be that, high volume homer guy. I don't know if he's going to be more average down the stretch, but obviously he put up a bunch when he hit those 40 back, in the limited time that he did. So there is the possibility for that.
Yeah, and just to think that I know that I would be interested in them chasing 62.
Oh, I'd be interested in it. 100%.
Right, like clean, because that's never been done clean.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever gotten to that milestone legitimately since Maris. And it would be a great way to kind of like get Maris's name back in there, because a lot of people, that's still the single season mark for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And to bring it down to 156 would almost make all of those extra seasons where, McGuire did three times he hit 60, Sosa 3 times he hit 60. All those seasons would be like considered in the 162 era of baseball that that existed between 1961 and 2021. It was a 50-year span where they did 162 games. Some of the records were tweaked with, but we're going back to 156, and those records they still exist, but at least we've reset them so that in a way we can go after those incredible numbers that seem to grab more attention than a World Series.
Yeah.
I think that might be interesting.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Again, it's going to be tough because I do agree it'll screw with some numbers. And it's like the inverse of adding an extra game to the NFL season, where they added a 17th game this season, and people think, all right, well, now all the passing touchdown records are going to be kind of screwed with, because the quarterback, breaks the record in week 18. People are going to be like, oh, like how should this count? The other thing I'm wondering though is if they were to go for 62 and they were to get it, I'm wondering if it's going to get the same treatment as, do you remember when Ichiro ended up breaking Pete Rose's all-time hits record, but it was counting his hits from Japan and the MLB. Yeah. So yeah. I know when he broke that, obviously Ichiro, first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm not denying that, whatever. Ichiro is an amazing baseball player. But Pete Rose still has all those hits in the MLB, and he still technically is the hit king across Major League Baseball. I'm wondering if, say Vlad was able to go out and hit 62, is it going to be treated like, oh, Vlad's the home run king, or is it just going to be like, all right, well, McGwire did it, but there were some connotations there, and it's going to be kind of like that. I know obviously there was cheating involved, but Rose obviously was involved in a scandal himself.
Yeah. I think some people will still hold on to the old numbers is what they are, but I think a group of people will go, that's my king. That's my home run champion.
Similar to Ichiro is what a lot of people do.
Yeah. And honestly, with Ichiro, if Ichiro would have not had to if he didn't win 7 batting titles in Japan and was just able to come up as a 19, 20-year-old in Major League Baseball,
he would have it.
Yeah, he would have 4,500 hits. He'd have more hits because they played less games in Japan.
Yeah.
And
he
never was injured.
Yeah.
He was never injured. And he wasn't, it's not like at 27, he was way better than he was at 20. He was Ichiro at probably 18. He was that hitter. He was probably that good at that age.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, Ichiro is just an unreal talent. I mean, just to be able to come into the league when he did and just absolutely dominate, that was something that always confused me, because I remember I looked back at Ichiro and I ended up saying, like, wait, he came in the league at 27, but then realizing how the posting system and all like the stuff in Japan works, and also just knowing like he was dominating in Japan. So I was like, all right, I'm going to stay here for a little bit. But, obviously it does make you wonder if Ichiro came over here, like you said, at a younger age and was him at 18, 19, 20 years old. It really just makes you wonder, what could he have really been?
Yeah, he would have added 1,500 hits.
And, easily. I think so, yeah.
He's got the record for consecutive 200 hit seasons, and he started at 27.
Yeah.
Right? He would have gotten a 200 hit season at 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and then 8 more,
Yeah.
So it's and honestly, that's a guy whose career OPS is under 800. And I feel like I am getting to the point where I don't care about analytics anymore.
I care about, you know me, I've never cared about analytics. Listen, again, I think if you're trying to decide what 4th outfielder you should have on your roster, analytics might be of use to you. And again, if you're a smaller market team and you're really strapped for cash, analytics might be something you have to kind of live and die by for a little bit until you get your funds reset. But if you're a big team like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, I'd even say like the Red Sox, they're usually like 3rd in there. Like when you're trying to use analytics to determine like, should we sign like this big name pitcher who's been a star for years, and you decide against it because you didn't like the analytics. I'm like, what are you doing? You had this guy like in your lap.
Oh yeah, I don't see. For me, it's like.
But then again, too, deciding Hall of Fame stuff too. Again, you can make the case against Ichiro for analytics, but then again, if you saw Ichiro play, you know who he is, and you know that he is that guy.
I just look at the way that pitchers hated facing him.
Yeah.
The ability to hit, the batting average has just been thrown out the window and just not respected anymore. And you look at OPS plus, and you look at weighted runs created, and it's just like, okay, you don't care. You think on base is so great. What are you putting on base? Are you putting on base Ichiro, who will get to second on a pass ball, every pass ball, who's going to steal second when he needs to steal second, who's on the base paths, a terrifying threat, that if you make an error, he will take the extra base no matter what the situation. You make a throwing error, he's taking the extra base. He's always going to take the extra base. If you put Joey Gallo and his 400 on base percentage or whatever it is, it's like, oh, he's never going to steal second. He's never going to take second on a pass ball. He's perfect double play fodder. He's slow. And so you're going to tell me that WRC plus, this guy, like him and Bo Bichette, I kept using that example in the offseason.
Saw
that Gallo has a higher OPS plus than Bo Bichette with batting $160 for 2 months with the Yankees. And it's just like Bo went 25, 26 in stolen bases. Every time there's a pass ball, he's taking extra base. He hit 300. He hit like 298. And you're telling me that a guy who hits 298 is the same as a guy who hits 200 because of his walks. And it's just like, what about whip? Walks, hits per innings pitched. Okay. You're telling me that a walk is the same as a hit. If a pitcher gives up a home run and a walk compared to a pitcher who gives up a base hit and a walk, their whip is the same.
Yeah.
Their whip is, so why are we looking at something that just that it's like a home run or two walks? You can have two walks compared to two home runs.
Yeah.
Well, then the whip is the same. Oh, you're like, well, go look at Nolan Ryan's 122 career whip. Understand that it's all walks. It's all walks because the hits per 9 average is like 6.2. The average is 6.2 hits per 9. And so nobody hits. That's what it's just, I look at that stat and you're like, don't use that stat to define somebody. Look at him as a pitcher. How many innings does he pitch? That doesn't matter anymore. It's just like, if you're a 3.80 ERA pitcher, but you can throw 240 innings, you're not only a starting pitcher, but you're 45 innings of pretty solid relief. Like 380 isn't great relief, but it's innings that, to me, that has so much value. Like all of those aspects, and you're just like, no, his ERA plus is 137.
Who gives a damn? No, exactly. No, I do agree with you, and I think it's I find it funny that you mentioned Joey Gallo. He's actually someone that I wanted to talk with you about because he actually obviously. Well, there hasn't been a ton of big moves in baseball. Obviously, free agency is paused. Joey Gallo's name actually did pop up in the news the other day, and I know a lot of people are kind of reason a lot of people are pissed with this walkout is because or lockout rather is that they're not really talking about a lot of changes to the game. It's more just it's just about the numbers and about how much money they should be able to spend versus make, and there's like just all those questions there. But Joey Gallo ended up coming out just the other day on CBS Sports. And, there was an article about him and he ended up, obviously he comes out and, Joey Gallo, prominent left-handed hitter, power hitter for the Yankees. And he ends up saying, hey, listen, I think it's time to ban the shift or make some changes to it. And his quote on it, to be exact, he basically said, at some point you have to fix the game a little bit. And I don't know. I want to get your thoughts on this because the idea of fixing the shift is something that I guess has been coming down the pipe for a while now. I was listening to sports radio just the other day, and I heard that since 2013, teams are shifting 9 times as much as they used to, and that's the jump that we've seen in less than a decade. And I'm typically I like the idea of the shift because I'm just like, all right, you free up a part of the field where you could. If you're a left-handed hitter and you want to bunt it down that third baseline, again, you have the ability to do that. I'm personally against getting rid of the shift, but Gallo comes out and he says this. What are your initial thoughts on just like getting rid of the shift and, or at least modifying it in some capacity?
It's tough. It's tough to think about changing how that you defensively align yourself because when 5 years ago, I would have been like, no, you can't ban the shift. That's you just turn your swing around and hit the ball to third base, and we're not even talking about you bunt the ball, you get a base hit, you choke up and you hit a 8 hopper to third base and it goes for a double.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember back in 2013, oddly enough, I remember Nelson, no, not Nelson Cruz, Robinson Cano, rather, Yankees. It was Yankees Red Sox, and he ends up bunting it down the third baseline. And it wasn't a good bunt by any means. This thing was like if there was a third baseman there, he would have literally been able to just stand there and catch it. But it went right where the third baseman wasn't, and he ended up getting a double out of it. So yeah.
It's just hitters have not. They're dead pull. Lefties especially are dead pull.
Yeah.
And
not everyone's Rod Carew where he's able to just send it the other way.
And Tony Gwynn, like that doesn't exist anymore. And how exciting is what was a player like Tony Gwynn to watch. We
Oh my
don't.
God.
We take the joy in the most exciting players being the guys who can put a pimp walk on their swing now, and they got the swagger when they hit the home run. But Tony Gwynn would strike out 25 times a year, and his outs were exciting. His outs were exciting because you had to make an amazing play to get him out.
Yes.
And that is so limited now on watching a guy strike out, but he's swinging for the fences on 2 strikes. And you're still shifting him. You take your 2 swings to try to pull one and jack one out, and you get to 2 strikes and they're still shifting you and you still strike out.
Yeah.
You don't cut your swing down to just like, I'm just going to handle something over there. I don't care if it comes off the bat. We're so obsessed with exit velo. It's got to come off the bat at 108 miles an hour, because if it does, then there's a 700 batting average attributed to it. It's like Tony Gwynn never hit the ball 117 miles an hour, but he had a 330 career batting average because he knew where to hit the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
it doesn't matter if it comes off the ball 60 miles an hour. If it's in a spot where the guy isn't, you're going to be able to get on.
Yeah.
Like,
and I was going to say that, like, nowadays where we're so obsessed with the offensive production of a player, where we will take a little bit of a hit on their defensive ability, players don't attack defensive weakness.
Yeah.
When there is so much more defensive weakness. You know, there are so many shifted players. There are so many players who are dependent on that. So many players who are playing a position that 15 years ago, they wouldn't be playing that position because they figured that position was way too defensively important. But now they do. And you can rip, Tatis can rip 30 errors at shortstop now. It doesn't matter because he's going to hit 45 home runs. Well, why not test that defensive weakness? Why not?
Yeah.
When I get to 2 strikes, I'm going to hit a ball in the hole and see if you airmail it, and I'll be on second.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's something that you could at least test out. And I do kind of agree with you. There aren't really any players anymore that kind of have that Tony Gwynn kind of approach, or, a Rod Carew kind of approach. The only guy that, again, I might be biased here because he plays in Boston, but I was listening to the broadcast last year, and I think it was Dave O'Brien, and I think Remy was still on. I didn't think he hadn't gone to treatment yet at the time. And one guy that they pointed out that they think kind of plays more old school was Alex Verdugo. And yeah, and he'll send the ball to the opposite field a number of times. I mean, he can still put it out, but I think during his first year in Boston, they tried to turn him into this launch angle guy. They tried to do the same thing with Andrew Benintendi when he came here. I think that's why he struggled a lot. Then you saw him go to Kansas City. I think he hit 280 this year. He had a much better and more productive season because I think he went back to his old approach of saying, hey, I'm not trying to be this launch angle guru. I'm just going to try to get on base the way I know how. And Verdugo, I wouldn't say is similar to Benintendi in that, in terms of play style, but they're not launch angle guys. They're able to just, hit line drives and get on, the old fashioned way and play like that. And I don't know. I don't know if Verdugo is going to be, the star power that Tony Gwynn was. I mean, he's 25 years old, so he still has years to figure stuff out, but you are right. It is few and far between nowadays.
I was going to say, Freddie Freeman is probably the best example of a guy who can consistently still hit 300. And if you look at his approach in batting practice, it's left center. It's left center. It's everything is going, 10 feet over the shortstop's head in batting practice, because he needs to be, because if he can handle the away pitch, he knows he can pull.
Yeah.
He knows he can get a ball over the inner half and pull it, no problem.
We've seen it so many times, but honestly, probably Freddie Freeman, probably as a superstar, is the closest, from a star perspective, is the closest in play style to those guys. I'd say so, because
a pure hitter, right? Just will hit the ball to all fields, has power to all fields.
I mean,
and his swing to me is designed for it's designed for left center.
Oh yeah, no, literally in my mind, I can think of Freddie Freeman just shooting one of the opposite field and getting on. It's something that you can just think of him doing. I mean, I can't think of Joey Gallo doing that. And that's the other thing too. Like when David Ortiz came out and he ended up saying, I think I could have hit 300 against the shift. I'm like, okay, like that's a fair point because David Ortiz is probably the greatest DH of all time. And if you don't want to go and maybe say Edgar Martinez, I know there's some debate with those two, but I like to say David Ortiz is the greatest DH of all time. With Joey Gallo, he just led the league in strikeouts last year. So I'm like, I'm sorry, man, but at the same time, I think you have bigger problems on your hand than just the shift. I know that's something that's weighing on your mind, but that didn't cause you to whiff at 3 pitches.
I think he had between strikeouts and walks. I think he had a 325. I'm going to guess.
I think he also led the league in walks as well.
Yeah, 325 walks and strikeouts.
Yes.
Okay, that means you're not touching the ball. 325 plate appearances.
Yes.
320. He had 90 hits.
Yes.
The guy maybe had 95 hits, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, that you're not even a hitter at that point.
No, I mean,
you're not trying to hit. You're trying to get a home run.
Yeah.
All the time. His home run percentages are like, I think hit 36, 37 last year. This is just off the top of my head.
In 2021, Joey Gallo had 99 hits.
99 hits.
Mm-hmm.
That's 99 hits, and 300 times you either struck out or walked to first base with no speed.
He's only had 100 hits once in his career. It was in 2018. He had 103.
No, he's better than Bo. I want him more than Bo Bichette.
Yeah.
I want him more than the guy who led the league in hits, hit 290, speed, home runs, doubles, most foul balls in baseball.
Yeah.
Is what Bo has. Like Bo gets to Bo's got an approach at the plate where he cuts his leg kick away when he gets to 2 strikes. So he's got this big booming leg kick to try to like jump on pitches when he doesn't have 2 strikes. Gets to 2 strikes, the leg kick goes away, and he's trying to flare stuff to the opposite field. And that's why the guy is going to hit 300.
Yeah.
Because he's a hitter.
Yeah,
he has
exactly.
Non-2-strike approach and a 2-strike approach. That's all I'm asking these guys to do is have a 2-strike approach. That's it. That's died. They don't have 2-strike approaches anymore.
I'm not saying to stop hitting home runs because I mean, listen, I love home runs. I love seeing guys jack it out of the ballpark and like just absolutely
2 swings for that.
Yeah. I love seeing that.
No strikes. You see one that you think you can get at, take a rip at it. All you got. Put everything behind it. You got 1 strike. You see another one that you think you can handle. Put everything you got into
nuts.
it. Now you got 2 strikes. If you swing and miss now, nothing can happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So cut that swing down. Come a little bit closer to the plate if you think that he's getting you away. Cover the plate a little bit better.
Fight off the junk.
Yeah. But no. Swing harder on 2 strikes. Try to hit an even bigger home run.
I'm like, it's still worth the same amount if it goes out. Like, I'm like, why are you swinging harder at it? It's
you watch. I think about the previous generation and how they would react to the way that hitters come up to the plate with 2 strikes, and they've got a runner on third base and 2 outs, and you just need a dying quail. You just need something to dribble through the infield. You just need to put a ball in play. Strike 3, you're gone. Hell, they'll be watching. They'll watch one. They'll watch the away like fastball that's like 6 inches up. And it's away, but they can't pull it.
Yeah.
So, strike, and they'll watch it, and you're just like, "What is this? A backwards K on a fastball?"
Oh. And again, just let me say this straight up. I love the home run. One of my favorite clips that I was seeing going around on TikTok. It was Josh Donaldson when he was back on MLB Network, and he ended up saying, "If your coach tells you don't hit the ball up, tell him no." And then it just flashes back to him hitting an absolute bomb at Toronto.
Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, if he's telling you not to like go full out on it, tell him no and just do it. And just
I was like, so I do appreciate that, but at the same time, you do at least have to have, again, I think just having some semblance of a 2-strike approach is all we're asking of these guys. Again, we're not asking you to like, we're not trying to send this thing back to the dead ball era.
No. And I to me, a number 5 hitter is what that is for. Like, that's why you got a guy on the team who hits in the 5 spot. He's an all or nothing guy.
Yep.
Right now, everyone's a number 5 hitter. Everyone is all or nothing every swing.
One guy who I think really epitomized that, I'm thinking back, at least for my sake, with the 2013 Red Sox, was obviously at the top of the lineup. You had Jacoby Ellsbury as your leadoff guy. Then it went Shane Victorino as your switch hitter, but then became the righty towards the end. Dustin Pedroia, who's your average guy. David Ortiz in the 4-hole to hit a grand slam and then, you know, celebrate everything there. And then, you know, obviously in the 5 spot, you had Mike Napoli, who literally in my mind is the definition of an all or nothing guy. And it would piss me off sometimes because I would see him swinging out of his shoes. But then the other half of the time, I would see him absolutely lift one over the monster.
Oh, yeah. Mike Napoli would pepper the center field restaurant in Rogers Center. He did like 460-foot bombs. There's some of the biggest home runs I've ever seen from that guy. And but yeah, it's like everybody kind of became Mike Napoli. And you're like, it's good to have one Mike Napoli on your team.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to have, because to me, as a building a lineup, I like all my hitters. Like Chicago does a good job of this. Chicago has great lineup diversity. The White Sox are.
Yeah.
And you know, they've got Luis Robert, who can do a little bit of everything. They've got Yasmani Grandal, who's the on base guy. They've got the switch hitters. They've got Tim Anderson. You know, there's diverse. Jose Abreu, the big RBI guy at first. Like you've classically built your offense. Eloy Jimenez, your big corner power hitting outfielder. You've got a nice range there. I'm actually sad that they got rid of Nick Madrigal, because Nick Madrigal is the one guy who actually is still like this. He's still like the players from that older era. He's contact. And like, they didn't, what was the trade? White Sox to Cubs for Nick Madrigal? It wasn't, they didn't come away with some was it for Kimbrel?
Yeah, I think it might have been. I think he was part of the deal.
Because like, to me, I just like, as a GM, I want Nick Madrigal on my team. I want Nick Madrigal hitting 300 with a 770 OPS, but you can't get him out. You can't strike this guy out. He's gonna make contact, and his at bats are gonna go long, and the pitcher's gonna get frustrated. And I want that. I want an at bat like an 11, 12 pitch walk to then lead into my power hitter. Then the power hitter's up, and he's like, I just had an 11 pitch walk. I'm going to put something over here to get ahead. 2-run bomb, right? Like,
exactly.
It's about how your style sets up someone else. It's about, you just can't go OPS chasing like the Yankees, because I think that has created some the Yankees, and the fact that they're pretty much in a position where they have to re-sign Aaron Judge. They have to.
Yeah.
That's the guy that everybody loves there.
Oh, yeah.
But they have Stanton, and they have, Voit, and they have Sanchez.
My dad hates Luke Voit with a passion. He hates that guy. And it's not even like, my dad isn't even like he'll root for the Red Sox, but he didn't grow up a Red Sox fan. He grew up on Long Island, was a Mets fan, but like, he doesn't hate him by the fact that he's on the Yankees. He just can't stand Luke Voit. Like, if Luke Voit was on the Mariners, he'd hate Luke Voit. It wouldn't matter. I don't know what it is, but I think it's just like that kind of similar approach where it is kind of an all or nothing. And he's just like what? Like, how is this guy in the majors?
I used to I used to laugh at Daniel Vogelbach. And Luke Voit, and I used to call them Vogel Voit, because I wanted them to like merge into one big no-neck thing. Just those guys just remind me of the same guy, because they're just big.
Oh yeah.
You just go over, they're just flexing, just trying to belt one. Oh, I love it. That's.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. But I don't know. Like, I think the way you said it best, though, one of the things that we can agree upon is that we want to see something similar. We want to see we want to see a little bit of everything. We want to see kind of the best of both worlds. We want to see the passion of this younger generation coming up be infused into baseball, but we also want to see some of the traditional aspects that made the sport fun try to make their way back into the game.
Mhm.
Harkening on going back and, into the previous generation, there's some news that the MLB has come out, and they're actually, obviously we had the Field of Dreams game during last summer, and that was obviously a ton of fun. Probably one of the best games of the year, if not the best and most exciting game of the year. Was an awesome game to witness on TV. But what's some news that's coming up is that the MLB is exploring a Field of Dreams style game at some historic Negro League stadiums around the United States. So obviously back, I think it was during last summer, the MLB came out and basically said, hey, all the Negro League stats are now official baseball stats. They will now be counted as MLB stats. And, now Jackie Robinson's stats with the, I think it was the Kansas City Clowns. What was it?
Monarchs.
Monarchs, yeah.
Yeah.
Who were the Clowns again? Where did they play?
The Clowns. I'm trying to think of the Negro team called the Clowns.
Yeah, there was a team called the Clowns. Trying to think.
Like I've got I know that 50% of the teams were called the Giants.
Indianapolis Clowns. That's who they were.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So that's who they were. But no, it was the Kansas City Monarchs. I always used to get those two confused because of like alliteration and stuff like that. But no, so I like Jackie Robinson's stats now count towards that. So he has a couple extra hits and home runs. There were a lot of things that came in there. So obviously the MLB is now recognizing this as part of their history, and they want to go out and explore that. And it's very interesting. So obviously, what are your thoughts on them trying to do more games at these kind of stadiums in the future?
I love the trying to touch upon the Negro Leagues, because that was 30 years of like a terrible black eye on the sport, forcing black people not being able to play. But at the same time, Negro League Baseball became one of the biggest black owned businesses in America. I believe it was the second or the third biggest industry that was African American owned during that time. And like Rube Foster, if you're going to go back to the dates, the names that really, like, Rube Foster deserves probably like his own day.
Yeah.
He founded that league. He created the screwball.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the screwball was his invention, the fadeaway pitch.
I think so.
And he, to be that like impresario type figure in Negro League Baseball between like 1910 and the late 1930s, like that is for as much as Jackie did being the player to break the color barrier, for Rube to literally create a league that then became recognized by Major League Baseball as another form of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's no longer it's no longer like, oh, like this was just like the Japanese leagues are never going to be recognized as Major League Baseball, because it is separate. There are some differences in rules, but with Major League Baseball, they're recognizing, hey, this happened in the United States. There were rules in place and certain segregation laws that barred certain players from the league for many years. And we had some great players in this league, and they faced legitimate, real competition, and they should be recognized for that. So I'm glad that they were able to do that. And I'm interested in some of the stadiums that they're going to do this with. So I guess the current stadium that a lot of people are looking at would be, I guess it's called Hinchliffe Stadium, and it's in Paterson, New Jersey. And I guess at the time it was home to the New York Black Yankees and the New York Cubans. And I guess that's the favorite for a field to have right now. And Kami, I showed you before the episode, and unfortunately, just time has not really been fair to this field, and it's kind of just very dilapidated right now. It's not in good shape at all, especially if to host a baseball game, especially at the major league level. And I guess they're going to be having a $90 million renovation of this place. So, unfortunately, if you do look at pictures of this field, which we did, it's going to need every single penny of that $90 million to get this thing in shape. It's in rough shape, to say the least. Another field that I heard was thrown out was it's in Birmingham, Alabama. And I think this actually could be a much more interesting place to do a game, because similar to putting the game out in Iowa to what they did with the Field of Dreams game, putting a game in Alabama, there really aren't too many there really aren't too many baseball teams that are near that market. And I think, obviously you're in New Jersey, you're near the Yankees, you're near the Mets and all those teams. I think kind of going to another place in the country where, Major League Baseball rarely touches and playing a game there. I think I wouldn't mind seeing a game there.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm surprised. I know you want to do the All-Star game in front of 50,000 people and get the maximum amount of receipts there as possible. But like, it would be nice for them to find a way to put the All-Star game in a more special place than just a standard stadium.
Yeah.
Not that the stadiums aren't beautiful and we want to tour them around, because like Major League Baseball stadiums are great, but like just being able to watch that Field of Dreams game and seeing balls go into the cornfield and the production.
Oh, shoot. This. All right.
I think
okay. Sorry about that. Just had some technical difficulties. Wanted to restart that, but go on.
Yeah, I was saying on my TikTok channel, I touched on like a Sandlot style game where it would be interesting that have a kind of like the movie The Sandlot, where one team pulls up on their bicycles and the other team is kind of scrappy looking, and it would be interesting to do just throwback games to a completely different style.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'd love to see something like that. Unfortunately, I think they were planning to do the Field of Dreams game during 2020, and I wish they, with COVID, I know that pushed a lot. I know that caused a lot of problems. Looking back on it, I really wish they had done the All-Star game and they had done it at the Field of Dreams Stadium, because you don't need to have fans out there. You could have had a very limited production crew. Obviously, you would have had to have certain precautions in place, but you could have had all the players walk out of the cornfield, do all that. And I think that would have been a really cool thing to have had, especially during the lockdown that we had.
Well, it's just wild to think that baseball has that. Like no other sport can really have a Field of Dreams game, because no other sport has Field of Dreams as like a movie that touches all the fans. And but like for the Negro League stuff, like
the only thing I could think of that you could do for another sport would be have the Indiana Pacers play at Butler and have them in the Hoosiers jerseys.
Yeah, that would work.
That's the only thing. That's the only other thing I could think of that you could do, which would be kind of cool. But that I don't know, that did just come to mind. I mean,
maybe a Mystery Alaska game, where they go up into Alaska and play a hockey game with some mountains in the background.
That would be sick. That actually would be a lot of fun. But I don't know. Obviously there's a lot of differences in what could happen with these stadiums, but obviously these stadiums are historic, and hopefully they do get the justice that they need. I think it is time now to, in talking about stadiums, I do want to transition to something now over in the NHL. Obviously, we had a lot of great MLB talk, but while we are on stadiums with you, Joel, I want to talk to you about this Arizona Coyotes stadium. So for anyone who doesn't know, I'm not the biggest hockey guy. I like the Chance the Rapper version, quote that he says on Saturday Night Live when he plays the hockey reporter, and he ends up going, let's do that hockey. and it's just like, yeah, sometimes I really have no idea what I'm talking about. I mean, I'll root for the Bruins in the postseason. I hope they kill it. But at the end of the day, if you ask me about what a blue line is, I mean, you might as well tell my family I love them. I'm gonna be honest with you. But I ended up seeing this trending on TikTok, and it's gotten a lot of flack. So the Arizona Coyotes come out, and apparently they announced that they announced a partnership with Arizona State, and they announced that they're going to play in a 5,000 seat arena for all the great hockey fans of Arizona. And man, this is embarrassing. This might be the most embarrassing excuse for a professional team in North America that I think I've ever seen. 5,000 seats. And I think ownership said, yeah, it's gonna be packed. And I'm like, yeah, you just have to like tell like the local college students that you might be having like a meal deal thing like there. Tell them they're gonna get a couple extra dining dollars and they'll show up. I mean, it's not gonna take much for these guys. Like this is embarrassing. As a hockey fan, and I know you love the sport much more than I could ever. What are your thoughts on just something like this happening?
Well, and it's like a long-term thing, right? Like it's for
the next 3 years.
That's a joke.
Yeah, no. Listen, if your stadium like had some malfunction and said, "Hey, we just gotta play on like this ice for like a little bit while our stadium is getting fixed," yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't blame you for having to, have to deal with something in the temporary. You signed a deal to purposely do this and to purposely play in the stadium. And I mean, at that point, why are you even trying to, have hockey in Arizona at this point? It obviously isn't working. They rank towards the bottom of the league in attendance annually. I mean, like what, for like the past 5 or 6 years, they've either been last or close to it.
And they've never put a competitive team out there for so long.
No.
They've not been a competitive organization in so long. So it's just like you're pretty much financing your 30th place team to be 30th.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, it's fitting because there is the point where you're accepting your defeat, but at the same time, I feel like you should be looking to try to get more fans in the arena instead of just accepting, oh yeah, we're only going to get 5,000, so might as well pack the house.
There's at least up here in Canada, there's such a market. Like you could put a third NHL team in Alberta and it would probably do just fine. I'm not saying that that's what you do, but like Quebec could handle it.
Yeah.
I think Atlanta,
yeah,
which had a team previously, and I think they could probably get another chance and would do well if they had the right, ownership group there. There's a lot of places like Seattle.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Well, Seattle just
got their new team, right?
They just shows you
that.
Yeah, so there are markets available. I mean, I'm surprised that Vegas was as successful of a market as it was for hockey. I mean, so
they made it something else. They made it into a show.
Yeah.
They really made it Vegas hockey. So
yeah. So I mean, you can turn hockey and not have to be like, like a bunch of Boston and people from Boston and Minnesota and Canada, button heads with chipped teeth. Like, it doesn't need to be that for everyone. You can kind of have it be a show for wherever you go. But so it just makes me wonder. Yeah, like you mentioned Atlanta. Do you bring back the Quebec Nordiques? Do you bring back the Atlanta Thrashers? Another market I've heard thrown around too is Houston. I think that could be a success there. I think that actually could be a really good market. But I don't know, man. All I know is that hockey in Arizona. I mean, listen, the Heat doesn't work out there anyways. It's a terrible, I think the last thing I'm thinking about when I go to Arizona is, oh, where's the nearest ice rink? Like that doesn't come to mind.
I go to Arizona, I'm probably more interested in watching NASCAR.
Yeah. Honestly,
it's just not
hockey synonymous. Hockey is literally the furthest thing from my mind. If I was in Arizona, I couldn't think. I don't think I could think of something there's probably nothing I would think of less.
Yeah. And there are the fact that it's long-term makes no sense to me. It's just, to me, that's the final straw is like, okay, for the rest of the year, we're going to have to go to a 5,000 person stadium, but like the next year we're moving you.
Yeah.
The next year you're gone. We're not.
I can understand that. Like I remember when the 49ers, I know you don't, I know typically it's kind of a faux pas to kind of cross sports when talking about them. But, when the 49ers had to deal with COVID, it was like, all right, we're going to go play in the Cardinal Stadium. Or when, trying to think, there were, and then obviously with the bubble, it was like, all right, we got to go play in like this gym in Orlando. Like, we can understand certain circumstances that force you into these situations. But then again, like if it was like, all right, because your attendance is so bad and we hate the optics of it, we're going to put you in this stadium. And then afterwards, you're going to move. But the fact that they're agreeing, hey, for the next 3 years, this is going to be hockey in Arizona. It's just embarrassing. You're playing in a shoebox.
Think about the money.
Yeah.
Think about the money. The money is 10,000 fans a game are not coming.
Yeah.
Where somewhere else they would be. And you're going to do it for 3 years. So you're going to do it for 123 games. 123 games times 10,000 fans is what you're missing out financially.
Oh my God.
That's what kind of business model is that? Move the team. Yeah. That's how much money? How much money is that? That's millions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. And you're just like, whatever. Not to mention all of the merchandise that you're going to sell, not to mention all the food that you're going to sell, not to mention all the people that you can't even properly employ a a crew to work that arena because it's 5,000 people. So you're not employing as many people to, like, every other stadium has 15,000 people that they need to deal with. So all those concession stands are open. All those custodians are required. Like, you need people to run a 50,000 person stadium. Oh, now we can cut that down and we don't, like, why are you doing this? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. The only upside I can see is that, again, this is a partnership with Arizona State. So, maybe if the Coyotes are semi decent, which they're not going to be, but if they even, if they're capable of winning some hockey games, maybe there's a chance that you're able to draw in. I don't know how well like the Arizona State crowd, but they can be kind of a rowdy bunch. When alcohol and other substances are involved. I know that's with any college, but I've heard many stories about Arizona, so I about Arizona State. So I think that they could, as 5,000 fans, they could make it seem like 15,000 very quickly if certain things go their way.
Yeah, granted, they turn it into a college environment. It's wild and crazy with 5,000 people, and it's loud. But why isn't there a hockey team in Milwaukee? I don't know. No, you got the Brewers and the Bucks. Why can't that's a nice northern city? You think they like hockey up there?
I mean, you'd have to assume so, but then again, you might actually, no, you make a good case. I don't know why they haven't tested out other markets. I mean, obviously this one isn't working, but we're just gonna have to see what ends up happening from there. That is all, as fans, for the most part, that we usually can do. So obviously, Joel, thank you so much for coming on the show, but unfortunately we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up everything we talked about in this episode and send you guys on to your weekend. Obviously, welcome back on, Joel LaFlamme, A.K.A. Hey Comedy, the show. Once again, Joel, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it was great, Brian. Time just flew by. That was an hour and a half, and
it's crazy. It's crazy how quick it can go by. And we were able to talk about a great number of topics. We talked about the MLB possibly having to cancel regular season games if they do not have a decision by February 28th. This episode is being recorded on February 25th. By the next time I record an episode, I will have a very different reaction, either one of two ways. It's either going to be very happy and it's going to be like, hey, baseball's coming back, or it's going to be, hey, where does Rob Manfred live again? Just a quick question. So I don't know. We're going to have to see what happens there. Hopefully some sort of resolution can happen, but at the end of the day, it's Major League Baseball. And I think I know where this is going to be going on Monday, as do you, Joel. After that, we talked about Joey Gallo coming out and saying that the shift needs to have some adjustments, and it's time for the game to be fixed a little bit. I think that's a little, I think that Joey Gallo has other problems on his hands, leading the league in strikeouts and all, but who knows? After that, we talked about the MLB exploring Field of Dream style stadiums at Negro League Stadiums. Obviously, the MLB made great strides in now legitimizing the Negro Leagues as part of their as Major League Baseball. So there's some interesting topics to look at there. And finally, we ended things off by talking about the Arizona Coyotes and their comedically, and I say comedically, like, wholeheartedly, just tiny stadium. I mean, for a professional sports franchise, this is embarrassing. I like it looks about as small as the gym that I'm at a D1 school, but I'm at a very very small, like, Division I school. We have a great baseball program, great this, great that. But for basketball, we have a very small gym. It's going to be packed tomorrow because we're competing for our conference championship, but it's embarrassing. So hopefully, hockey gets out of Arizona fairly soon, but we'll have to see how that goes. But if you're not falling down the wire at this point, what are you guys doing? We're available everywhere you guys can find podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all that good stuff. For the video stream, you can also find us on YouTube. And for live shows, when we typically do it on the radio, you will listen in at WJMF 88.7 HD2 Smithville, Providence, or WJMFradio.com. We typically do our live shows on Wednesdays and Fridays from 7 to 8. But for any updates regarding the show, please visit our Instagram at down.tothewire on Instagram. Again, at down.tothewire on Instagram. Joel, I'll throw it over to you real quick for any shout outs that you want to give before we head off. And then, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just check me out at Hey Comedy right there on TikTok. You're doing baseball videos all the time, even in the lockout with nothing to do. I think we talked about how Tony Gwynn only struck out 3 times against Glavin and Smoltz and Pedro Martinez and Greg Maddux. So that was just stuff like that. Just trying to fill time until we get some resolution in the baseball season. I've got a movie that's in production, and hopefully next time I come on the show, I will be able to tell you where you can go and watch that. So that's another thing.
Yeah, I know we were going to talk about that more during this show, but hopefully the next time we have you on, there is some bigger news involving that. So obviously, thank you guys so much for watching. And from Down to the Wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm A.K.A. Joel LaFlamme.
And we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Have a great weekend, and peace out.